Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to have people from all around the globe with us. We've got a lot of registrants from the UK, parts of Asia, and also Australia. This webinar is interactive, so please don't hesitate to submit any questions or comments that you may have in the question and the chat section. For those of you who aren't aware, this is our second webinar as part of our retail webinar series. And today we are super excited to be partnering up with Gander to speak more to the topic about food waste within grocery. And in addition to that, how to increase sales while also reducing food waste. So my name's Celeste. I'm the product marketing manager here at Last Yard, and also have my colleague Pat joining us. Welcome, Pat.
Hey everyone. Hi, morning. I'm the BDM here at Last Yard.
Next, would love to present the stars of the show and our guest speakers, Tim and Stuart from Gander.
Hi, thanks Celeste. Thanks for having us. We're really excited to get this webinar up and running.
Morning everybody, Stuart here.
Thank you both for joining us. Okay, let's get started. So first, we just kind of wanted to speak a little bit more to the actual problem of food waste and what that looks like. So evidently food waste is a huge, or has a huge environmental impact, but I think where it's relevant today is also the significant financial impact that it does have on retailers. Surprisingly, an average of food waste loss in some instances is double that of retailers' net profits, which presents not only a problem, but I think a huge opportunity for a lot of retailers out there. In addition to that, and according to some of the stats that Gander have pulled up, is that 3% of stores' existing food traffic are currently shopping or keeping an eye out for reduced to clear products and promotions. So again, presenting a huge opportunity. Today we're going to speak more to the topic as a whole, but also speak to some of the data that's accessible, how to address the problem, and also the opportunities that lie within the issue. So before we get stuck into the topic in too much detail, I thought for those who aren't familiar with Last Yard and Gander, that we'd provide you with a little bit more information about the services that we provide. So Pat, if you'd like to take this one away.
Thanks, Celeste. So yeah, well, who is Last Yard? And I think we need to start with the why Last Yard. It may sound silly, but there is a purpose we exist, and we've done it for nearly 20 years now. So we're here to increase customer engagement and revenue through basically coordinated real-time promotion activity across the store network at grocers, furniture retailers, basically anybody in retail, brick and mortar. And the more complex part is that we take a lot of data from multiple sources and clean it up, make it presentation ready, and that's, you might hear that word quite a few times today, to engage shoppers through our endpoints such as paper tickets, in-store screens, social media, electronic shelf edges, and actually digital ones, which there is a little bit of a difference. So and typically what we find with retailers is that they have a lot of data in different locations, hence the first problem for a retailer, and that is utilizing that data efficiently, or actually even at all. Some retailers don't do much with it. What we see is that they tend to have a lot of extremely time-consuming processes to do things with that data. Now, secondly, in store promotions, it causes difficulty from a head office and a store perspective. The problem lies in not only the design, but also distribution to that said shelf edge. It could be that paper ticket, but it could be an ESL tag. So Last Yard has been created to tackle these two core issues. And if we have a look at this diagram here, starting from the left, we can ingest your product information, pricing, promotional data, and additionally, for more complex businesses, there are options for things like planograms, loyalty information, and e-commerce data sources. Now, we take that data through our own, well, actually your own configured rules. We help you configure it, but they can ensure your data goes to the right place and the right time, and that they can make sure the data is formatted correctly. For example, the action of price change or a description update, or even in the event of an expiration date nearing that would prompt a reduced ticket promotion. And lastly, the rules engine ensures that the stores are compliant, and it could be as simple as making sure that the right ticket promotion is on the shelf edge, but also showing the best deal for the customer and hitting things like RRP. Now, once the data is ready, Last Yard takes the role of, let's say, an AI designer, and utilizes the configured design rules this time around to match all the brand guidelines that your brand would have. Now, with all that, the last step is to distribute those promotional materials, and this could be that printed ticket, the electronic shelf labels, or TV screens. And in some instances, that presentation ready data could also end up in a catalog or a social media post. The possibilities are pretty much endless on our side. And of course, these are oh, sorry, missed one. Oh, reporting, right. So, and there's also lots of reporting and analytical tools for you to send that data to then make decisions to change what goes back into that loop. So we complete that cycle and make sure everything flows through. And that's really Last Yard in a nutshell. So I'd like to hand over to Tim to tell you about Gander.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
Just to give you a bit of background, I myself come from the supplier side originally, working with companies such as CCA, Simplot, Mission Foods. So acutely aware of working with everyone from the very smallest of corner stores through to obviously the independents, the major supermarkets, even Aldi, Costco to another degree. So thankfully what that's given me is a very interesting perspective on food waste. So when some time ago being approached about working with Gander, the choice is very simple, and I do implore you all to check out the video that we unfortunately weren't able to put onto this presentation due to the webinar software. However, it gives you in 1 minute 22 a clear view of how the Gander system works and how effective it could be at store level. So what is Gander?
Sorry, Tim, just a side note to that, the video will be sent in the follow-up email.
Oh, thanks, Liz, great. So Gander is essentially a smartphone app for all intents and purposes that customers can essentially log on to at any time, given their preferences, given their geolocation, given their favourite stores, and scroll through markdown items that have been bought through or pulled through from the stores in their area. For example, some lucky people may be up in Noosa right now on holidays, and they could go onto their store to find discounted items. So it is a multi-award-winning app that's been very successful across Europe and the and the UK. And as well as that, it has been proven to not only reduce food waste, not only save shoppers money, but also to actively add to the bottom line. So how does it work? So here's the store journey. So first off, in store, there's the reduction. So this is done typically through the handhelds, some of which are linked into the POS system, some of which, as we all know, sit independently. So a staff member marks the product down with a close sell-by date with a new barcoded sticker. So that data is then pulled through our seamless API that would then drop the data into our app, and it's showed, like we'll show shortly, it's shown on the product app. So consumers can easily scroll through, look for an item in real time, and then the user being notified of the product being available then can go and shop the item, purchase the item, and then again through the API in real time the item's taken off the platform and then allowing you to obviously sell more and waste less, which is great. So the key here is that you've got the new shoppers coming to your store, and you've got existing shoppers having access to your wasted, previously wasted or marked down products. but this is essentially a marketing platform for you to actively promote your markdowns, not your loss leaders, not your your lockdown low prices, but your products that either would be put in the bin or kindly donated to food bank and the likes of that. So in terms of the user experience, so the previous slide was obviously around the actual store. The user experience itself, like I said, geolocation, or you could search, you can set your filters up by products that you like. So for example, you look at a high ticket item such as protein or an eye fillet. You go, right, I'd like this product, I'm in this area. So then you have reductions that show up in your area. You browse through, you find the store. We have one up here in Queensland. It's an IGA. So you go over to the IGA, you'd purchase the product, and like I said, in real time, that would then be pulled out of the system. So I think going back to something that Patrick was rightly discussing, it's just the power of data, and we've all seen that over the years. And being on the supplier side, seeing the data we used to receive from the likes of Coles, Woolworths, Metcash, and Co. It's invaluable to decision making as to when to have promotions, where to have them, what products sell with which products, so to set up off locations, things like that. And look, the great premise around Gander is that markdown should be no different. So this product called Ganderlytics, which is part of the Gander package, allows you to see when your markdown products are being marked down, when they are being purchased, what's still being wasted. So you can actually look at doing things such as better scheduling, better activation of your reduction policies, but also even look to add dynamic pricing and elements like that into your wasted product, which, as we'll talk to soon, is huge. And again, this is a screen out of the Ganderlytics that again shows you just key top line data. So it is in real time, so you can instantly see how many lines you've got on the app, how many items have been sold, what percentage reduction you have seen on those products. So it actively allows you to manage obviously the reduction rates, but also the products. You can see the products that go through, and you can better manage those with, be it your individual grocery managers, category managers, buyers, and things like that. But it does give you real data on as we'll talk about shortly, a very large category, which is wasted items. So let's talk about some results. So as mentioned, we have activated Gander in many parts around the world, and it's seen up to 11% improvement on margin of products, up to a 90% sell-through rate of the products that are currently being wasted, thrown in the skips out the back, or potentially another thing there around the sell-through rate. It also can work to return or sale products such as dairy lines, that there is that huge amount of wastage that stores are simply just tipping milk down the drain, which, as we know, is a crying shame, but has to be done. Gander is something that could actively work to reduce the amount you're having to waste in this area, and look at up to an 80% improvement in profit. And although this sounds like a bold claim, we've got the example to show you on the next slide, I believe, or the one after. So the additional results, there's a 40% increase in the pace of selling through these products. So they're not just sitting around taking up your valuable retail real estate. 77% of people who they come in and they purchase a Gander product, they'll actually go and purchase other products as well. So they're not simply coming in to get the deal and leaving. So thus increasing your basket size, increasing the numbers of shoppers through the stores. And I guess for smaller stores, be it your IGAs, be it your Woolworths Metros, your Coles Express, this would, dramatically increase your foot traffic and again, pull through products that were traditionally wasted. Store compliance is a key thing, and we'll talk to that a little bit later in the operational section, but an 88% improvement in store compliance to wastage policies, to markdown policies, which any retailer would agree that's quite a remarkable feat, but it is also something that you can quantify in dollar terms. Another one is labour, and that cost redistribution and the time redistribution. And we all know there's a lot of time spent in retail outlets, spending a great deal of the time, dealing with wasted stock. So that's another great benefit. And look, at the end of the day, one of the key elements here is data and insights, but also provides a comprehensive list to the good people at either Food Bank, or I know we've been joined by some of the guys from Good to Go, who have alternative uses for product when it gets to literally the end of its life, which is going to donation to food products. But also don't forget that those who look to donate their products also have a tax incentive to do so. So that's something, speak to your accountant about that, but there is obviously almost a zero-sum game here of implementing Gander, working with Food Bank, and then your suppliers to really minimise that risk down to zero. So getting back to the retailer case, so this is a group in the UK with 38 stores. So we were very proactive in working with these guys at driving the sell-through rates, obviously the markdown losses, but then also trying to sell through product that's been essentially thrown in the bin. So as you can see there, this particular store group after 12 months of activation of Gander, and they were very proactive. They had in-store promotions, they had on-pack. So we worked with them on their barcode. So we had, like this deal, download Gander for another markdown opportunity. They actually realised $1.1 million Aussie, give or take £800,000 onto their bottom line. So the year prior, they realised a profit of £1 million. The following year, it was £1.8 million, of which 800,000 was directly attributed to the implementation of Gander. So looking at the retail platform here in Australia, the four big retailers have all got their 2025 vision of zero waste and landfill. But you look at the 80% reduction, or the 80% profit increase there. When we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars worth of waste, it's a significant amount of money that could be added to the bottom line by simply plugging in an API and working with Last Yard and Gander on how to reduce waste and sell more through data.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just crazy to see that figure here, Tim. I think looking at this in relation to 38 stores, it just blows your mind how much, if you're looking at those 1,000 store groups plus, it's huge opportunity there.
Correct, but and also let's not discount the even down to the smallest petrol and convenience outlets that have hot box items, that have chickens that have to go at certain times, dairy. So I mean, we'll talk about categories later on, but every retailer can benefit from a system such as ours, because the cost is essentially negligible to what can be made in very short succession.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Tim. Really interested in picking your brain a little bit further about what food waste actually looks like within the supermarket industry. I think a lot of the stats that I've seen from the Gander website and some of those sales decks is just, it's so eye-opening. And again, it just goes back to the opportunity that lies there, I think, and exists.
Look, absolutely. I mean, this is a pretty common stat that you don't have to look very hard to find on this, which is 1/3 of all food produced goes to waste, which is just staggering, considering the hard times that not only people in Australia due to COVID and any other reason have found themselves in, but the global hunger epidemic that is in certain parts of the world. When you look at that stat, it's just staggering, and it's no coincidence that we are a consumer-driven nation. We've all go and get our coffee in the disposable cups. We don't always we will sometimes buy the bulk because it's a better deal and not use it all, and that's okay. But there are ways in which, from a retail perspective, through data and through proactively managing wastage, that we can really hit this hard. To put it into perspective, it's in Australia, we're talking around 7.3 million tonnes of food a year is wasted, and that directly or indirectly turns up at about $20 billion of net effect on the Australian economy, which is just staggering. Essentially, that would feed the homeless and hungry people in Australia probably 20 times over, if not more. So food waste globally, again, has that $1 trillion effect, and again, billions of people could benefit from systems and proactivity. Certainly not saying that retailers aren't being proactive, but there are ways in which we can, through data and through systems, assist in really getting this to a zero waste solution. And this is probably a really good depiction on how. As you can see here, this is our food waste hierarchy. Now, in other countries, we have essentially almost filled this diagram with supporting partners. And that is to say, people who can come in and create or reduce, the waste all the way through, create solutions rather than reduce waste. As you can see at the bottom there is the landfill. That's where we're really trying to avoid. So Gander at the top, through the API system that taps into the POS, it pulls the markdown data and then the scan data. So it's not in there trying to mess up with point of sale systems or do anything untoward. It is purely there to pull that data and to then turn that into usable information on waste through the Gandalytics program, which I showed you previously. So what's great about this system is that it will talk to people, like I mentioned, like Good to Go, who are proactive around the world in bagging up product that is ready to go and making it available at very low cost to people in need. But also then to the great people at Food Bank, who Gander are already proactively working with here in Australia. We're working on solutions, and for all intents and purposes, we're actually almost working as a business development team for them, because many of the retailers we're speaking to would love to work with Food Bank, but they just haven't had the time or the activity to it. So how Gander can help is that within the store, within the ecosystem of the information that's coming through, we pull down a list of what's being wasted and when, and that will allow the good people at Food Bank to be able to schedule their runs more effectively on when to pick up, what they're going to pick up, so they can then proactively work with the charities that they support on what foods can be produced, what meals can be produced for the people in need. And so that is a really great, collaboration there. And we look forward to obviously working with the retailers on how we can, better facilitate that Food Bank. But then when we understand that there are items which can be challenging and there will be wasted time. So instead of it just being simply tipped into the skip, how can we, move to animal feed? Now, I know Nestle a few years ago were very successful in using a particular offcuts or byproduct of production, and they created a whole new product category within, I believe it was dog food. And so that's something there that obviously can, again, reduce this landfill. The industrial uses, where can we repurpose certain things? Obviously, composting is a huge thing, as many places do try and go more organic. Are there options there at working with some of, especially the big integrated retailer business, on where can that waste actually be redistributed effectively to? And then, like the last person that you want to see is the guy at the tip when it's going to landfill. That's what we're really aimed at here, is working collaboratively to live, I'll get it eventually, to work with everybody effectively to essentially get zero into landfill.
Yeah,
Tim,
I love that example of Nestle. I think it just demonstrates such a smart way to tackle the situation and think a bit outside of the square of the opportunity that's there in association with the waste.
Yeah, especially because it's not always going to be driven by the retailers. It's got to be the tech providers. It's also got to, and that was a supplier-driven solution.
Tim, have you
Sorry,
seen supermarkets partner with their growers or their suppliers to send the composting back to them? Is there such a group that organise some of that?
Look, I haven't personally seen it here, but to the best of my understanding, I do believe there are several of those in the UK that do just that. Often it's that gate to plate somewhat scenario where the local growers will support the local supermarkets, and vice versa. That doesn't get used then gets shipped back for compost. But 100%, and that's the getting back to all the big retailers and their 2020 visions. This is largely about how does this equate? It's a great news, it's a great media release, it's a great initiative, but how does that get done at store level? How do the shoppers walk in, and how are they engaged with that 2025 vision when they walk into a Coles or a Woolworths or an IGA? And that's what we're really hoping to work with everybody on. So this particular slide has actually been pulled from Refed, which is a great NGO out of the US that is actively working towards eliminating food waste. And so the references down there, and obviously can be shared and looked by everyone, but some of the staggering facts we sort of came through here, Celeste, was on average, the value of food wasted in retail is equal roughly to double the profits in the US from food sales, which just seems obscene to me. Prevention solutions such as dynamic pricing and markdowns have the highest profit potential. And again, this is where Gander come in and Ganderlytics come in. New digital technologies such as ride-sharing platforms, chain of custody records being applied to food waste, such as dynamic routing, cold chain solutions, that sort of thing. Again, Gander is working with solutions providers that can provide the dynamic pricing on markdown items. And the low-cost solutions such as standardized date labeling already exist and easily implement. So there's some real key, elements to take out here from that it is such a massive opportunity that everyone is talking about and everyone is trying to do something about it. But what we're seeing through the use of technology in a technology-driven world, we've all got a smartphone in our hand, is that let's use the platforms at our disposal to actually make this thing work.
Definitely. Really interested in the last point there as well, Tim, about the different types of food waste that you see within the supermarket space, and perhaps where the opportunity lies over some areas more than others.
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, let's make no bones about it. The key line that is going to bring people into store are your proteins, and that's a gentleman in the office just said that he went to one of the local IGAs and picked an eye-filleted steak up for $7. He thought it was great, so it was marked down, but he wouldn't have known if he hadn't have gone to the store, and that may not have sold through if he hadn't have picked it up. So look, the other thing is, like I mentioned before, you've got this is not a platform for the promotion of loss leaders or LDLPs. This is a platform to reduce food waste and to reduce and to pull through your markdown products. So, but also discontinued lines, because essentially they're often thrown at the end of a bay at the back of the store, or they're just thrown into a cold cabinet until they're pulled through. But when it comes to markdown products, it really is your meat and it really is your dairy. Absolutely, they are your key areas. Look, would a discounted litre of milk necessarily bring someone to the store? Not necessarily, but would it add value to their shopping experience and their overall, customer satisfaction within store? 100%. The other thing there is, one of the challenges, absolutely, and we'll be transparent of our program, is that we require a barcode to be able to ensure that it is the API is picking up the data and the data feeds through. So for items that are loose fill, such as your loose filled vegetables, such as your deli meats, things like that, unless they are bagged or unless they are allocated with a barcode, that is a challenge for us at this point. But it is something that can be overcome. I mean, for example, many stores in their deli departments already do pre-package a lot of these meats and vegetables. But yeah, that's sort of one shortfall. But like I said, at the end of the day, it really comes down to the big drivers of waste are your perishable lines.
Oops. As a marketer, I'm so interested in the consumer side of things and the consumer behavior side of things. And I think it's super evident lately, particularly the shift in consumer behavior when it comes to ethical, environmental and sustainable choices, not only in where people are shopping, but also what they're actually purchasing. So some really interesting stats here about 9 in 10 Australians being more likely to purchase these ethical and sustainable products. And then additionally, I think the spike in those that are actively participating in the forums that exist out there. And a lot of people, I think you'll see this maybe in Europe more so, people are so proud to be supporting the environment at the moment. And Tim, you said that you've seen a lot of social media posts out there where people are super excited when it comes to the purchases that they've had at supermarkets or the supporting.
100%. It's actually really it's a really exciting time because it's moved from being, you know, your hippies wearing tight fishing pants and chanting as they walk into the store looking for the sustainable, you know, kale, through to it actually being readily accepted that we are all trying to do our part. And some people can do more, some people can't. And so, look, will people necessarily cross the, you know, will they change their shopping habit if something's on sale and something is sustainable? Some will. Some, as we know, can't. They can't afford it. But what people will do with, you know, is if something is marked down, people aren't just buying it because it's cheap. They are buying it because it will be thrown out. And I guess to the second point there is people are checking for deals as they're going in. I mean, the catalogues are still rife, online catalogues, we all do. We all look for shelf tickets. It's ingrained in our psyche, and we do all, you know, majority of us all look for reduced tickets. So, you know, systems such as Gander are trying to put that in the palm of consumers and drive shoppers to your stores, increase basket size, and again, getting back to that shopping behavior. But yes, going back to your forums, one of the funnier ones I've seen recently is someone gloating coming out of a Woolworths store, having spent $20 on nearly $200 worth of retail valued chicken products. What she's going to do with it, I'm not sure, but she took a photo, and there's literally forums that people are excited about the money they are saving through waste reduction.
Neighbourhood barbecue, perhaps.
Yeah.
So we spoke a little bit earlier about data and the power that lies within the data, and I guess that's a huge part of where Last Yard ties into all of this. So I'm going to hand this one over to Pat.
Thanks, Celeste. A lot of this comes from being able to access and utilize that data, and there's so much opportunity there that just it's pretty imaginable. Like, this is a very small part of the data that we capture anyway. And for stores to use and collate that data, it requires it to be cleaned, aggregated, to be able to leverage that information in any usable way. Some examples of data types which are, I guess, most relevant and beneficial to you when it comes to food waste and optimizing marketing and sales opportunities would be things like, let's say AI pricing now is becoming very mainstream, and a good example here would be expiry date markdowns, and they can actually be staggered throughout the day to optimize the margin instead of just one significant markdown event at the end of the day. And this could also be utilized with sales information of how well a product is selling in different times of the week, month, and day. Another example would be if we already know that half of the milk will expire in 2 days' time, we can push the data to a third-party API like eCatalogs, e-commerce, and Gander to attract those buyers to that specific range of milk, and get that off the shelf as quick as possible for people to utilize. And have those photos of people, paying $20 for $200 worth of milk or chicken. But the other one would be probably product-based campaigns. And a good example recently was, chocolates during Easter. Knowing that those products are in high demand during those certain times of the year, we can start to promote those lines of product. And since some might sell slower during that event, we could do a markdown event also for those products that are selling slower. And then at the end of the event, we attract more people to come and buy those products. And the campaigns themselves could range from multiple events throughout the year to even new products that might be coming on board and being trying to move those across. The main thing, I suppose, is that product expiration dates provide these opportunities to integrate to the point of knowing when a product needs to be prompted as reduced to clear, and automatically pushing that out to prompt the store to actually put that ticket out and put that price change out, get that sticker on there, and the right message, of course, coming and attracting other people outside the store through Gander and other promotional avenues. Is that sort of what you've seen, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, and you, I think you've really hit the nail on the head. It is all data driven, and again, putting my old life as a supplier on, when we were getting the data feeds from Coles, from Woolworths, from Metcash, what we were able to do is make really informed decisions about the products that we'd want to run joint promotions with, how, when, where, also when people are shopping. And I think it's just so critical the whole way through the supply chain to effectively reduce waste. It's not just the retailer's responsibility, it's all of our responsibility. It's the supplier's responsibility. Just because it's a great promotion, it doesn't mean you need to sell 10 pallets to every store. It means you need to really look at what is going to be sold, and anything that's left over, how are we going to pull that through for the retailer and add it to their bottom line. But it really does come down to the data, and through effective use of it, bottom line improvements across the board.
Definitely. I think there's so much data that's accessible to retailers now, or that can be if it's not already. And it's just, it's really figuring out how that can be best integrated and automated in a way that's, as you say, optimizing through the whole process and that whole supply chain movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now delving more into the business opportunities that exist here, and really interested, Tim, in kind of breaking this down in terms of the different departments and how they're impacted as a result of tackling a food waste issue. So first off, just starting from an operational standpoint, really interested on your take there in terms of rotation of stock and compliance.
Yeah, look, I mean, anyone who's ever been in retail knows this is the age-old problem. Getting the oldest to the front, getting the newest to the back, ensuring rotation, ensuring when a refit's done or a new planogram's done, it's always amazing what you'd find in the back from a product that was expired 3 years prior, and these are in the best stores. But it really does come down to reducing the amount of time that stores are required to spend on the markdown process, but also implementing and ensuring compliance to the reduction and wastage policies. Because again, getting back to that 2025 strategy, in order for that to become a reality for the supermarkets, they're going to have to be changing on an employee basis, not simply from a corporate perspective. So when it comes to operations, it's around, how can the stores really leverage the use of the systems available to them to, ensure compliance to policy, reduce, ensure the reductions are done on time, and that can be done through, a range of different ways, and then using products such as Gander to effectively market and promote the product moving forward. Getting into certain independent retailers, a lot of them have got a reduction policy and they really want to support it, but they don't have the mechanisms available to them to effectively get compliance targets on those markdowns or on wastage on the shelf because of staffing hours, because of the time it takes to check all the different labels and dates and batch codes. So there are systems, such as Gander and through Last Yard that can actually assist in reducing, not necessarily adding another task, but actually reducing, but adding value to the whole supply chain of the supermarket and their operations.
Yeah, it's all about efficiency, isn't it?
Correct.
So then moving into the marketing side here, and particularly the in-store promotions, really interested in that part.
Yeah, and again, putting the old supplier hat on, one of the key things is, we could always get very demanding about the space that we believe we paid for, be it off-location space, be it point of sale requirements, be it the negotiation at a store level for, a bit of a display during Lent for John West or whatever it may be. But one of the key things here is it's very difficult to for a supplier to stomach you effectively marketing their product as marked down. People often get a little bit cagey about it, but in store, one of the great things that stores over the years have done is they get that compliance. They work with suppliers to ensure things that they are buying a lot of obviously get pulled through, and people are aware that the products are there. You've got your on-shelf ticketing and a lot of other ELS things coming through. But in terms of, I guess, where Gander comes into its own here is Gander is essentially that. It's a marketing platform for wasted or for reduced and wasted product, and that's the key. So this is a platform that's going to be effectively bringing consumers into your stores that may not have shopped there before to purchase products that they're specifically there to purchase, but 77% of them are going to stay there and buy some more products. So it is putting some of the smaller stores on the even footing with the bigger stores, depending on what reduction products they've got.
Yeah. Then moving into, I guess, the corporate social responsibility side of things, and I suppose this could be addressed in several ways from a public relations aspect. I mean, I feel as though a lot of the retail publications I'm reading at the moment are really picking up a lot of those press releases by big retailers to speak to their corporate social responsibility initiatives. So I think that's kind of one interesting part, but also you mentioning, Tim, Food Bank and how you work with them, and I guess the supporting of those charitable organisations is also just an incredible opportunity, I think, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I was saying before, these strategies are all fantastic, and it is so good to see that all the big retailers have put a 2025 target. But like I said, it does come down to how is that talking the talk is great, and managers and corporate pushing down the objectives is also fantastic. But it's how it's activated at a store level, and how your shoppers, when they go in, seeing the fact that they're actually living up to the expectation of reducing food waste. Is it by actively having a system like Gander that promotes the products markdown? Is it a display showing how much waste has been reduced in the last 6-12 months because of doing X, Y, and Z in the store? I think it's a great opportunity for retailers to really talk again to Australians who do care about the environment. Like I said, even if they're not chaining themselves to trees, we all do care. And so to see that your local Coles store has reduced 10 tonnes of waste in the last 12 months by, thanks to your support on a screen would be something that would certainly, I guess, ingratiate your Coles to the consumer moving forward.
Definitely. And lastly, but certainly not least, is the sales aspect. I think importantly, to move to some initiative to address food waste, of course, to boost the bottom line is equally as important here, I think. What sort of differences have you seen here? I mean, you mentioned that half of the profits are potentially lost as a result of food waste. So what have you seen as a result of supermarkets making this change, and where are the opportunities there?
Sure. Look, we work with UK retailers such as Morrison's, Eurospar, Vivo, Today's. So these are big chains with big store footprints, with large numbers of stores. So we've seen changes occurring in not only the smallest format stores, but also the largest format stores. And like I said, in terms of sales specifically, I'll just take you back to that example that we spoke about earlier. 28 supermarkets, £1 million profit in 12 months, turn that into £1.8 million. I mean, it's an 80% increase on their bottom line, and that's as simple as I can really put it in terms of a sales. But we all would love to sell more of more for more. That's obviously the retail way. However, if we have the opportunity to sell more of more, and the stuff that we unfortunately haven't been able to sell at more, a higher GP, we reduce that. Gander and through Last Yard obviously give you the data and the tools to be able to effectively sell it, reduce your footprint, and achieve those 2020 goals, be 2025.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that, Tim. So we're now going to open it up to question time officially. So if you do have any questions that you would like to ask, please submit them into the questions section. In the meantime, I suppose I'm really interested about the installation of something like Gander, and how you've kind of addressed, I guess, change management is always part of something like this. So yeah, I'm interested in that side of things.
No, that's a really good question, because absolutely, our major hurdle is often change management, because retailers run such a tight ship, such a closed ecosystem. I guess with the people that have embraced Gander, it's been fantastic. We've had systems up and running within several weeks in test mode, and then 2 more weeks later, we're up and running as a full-scale platform. We do often like to have a little bit more time, because the whole idea about Gander is we're providing that marketing platform service. So, we do look to work with marketing agencies and digital agencies around stores to actually promote not only the B2C relationship, the B2B relationship with the retailer, but our B2C relationship and generating the users. There is an interesting case study that we are working with up here in Queensland that we have some great support. We've got some great backing in terms of getting everything done within their store ecosystem. But like I said, we do have our hurdles of just changing the mindset of, especially point of sale providers, in that we are literally just attaching an API into a system and pulling out only the data we need. But this is something that the retailer partners so far have been very, very helpful in promoting this, because at the end of the day, we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars for a lot of people. Just for smaller IGA groups, my MSOs, we're talking $500,000, $200,000 to $500,000 worth of savings every year that can be made through the implementation of such systems.
Do you find that supermarkets are focusing on specific departments over others when they first roll it out, or it's more across the board?
Good question. I think it goes back to that loose fill scenario earlier. There are some that we're just putting in the, forgive the term of phrase, the too hard shopping basket at the moment, because of the fact that there are some stores that still mark down with a pen and a sticker, or the loose fill you know, the deli meats, things like that. But yeah, look, like I said, it's the high wastage items. So it is, unfortunately, there is a predisposition with retailers in terms of dairy, because the business plans often include a sale or return provision. There is that just tip it down the drain because we can do that, as opposed to going, well, how can we actually work with everybody to reduce that? And I think hopefully Gander can provide many people that platform.
Yeah, definitely. Super interesting stuff. Unfortunately, that wraps up our time, which that went very quickly. I just wanted to thank all of our attendees for joining us today and tuning in. Just so you know, a follow-up email will be sent, which will include the recording of this webinar. It will also include a link if you'd like to book a session with Last Yard and Gander to learn more about this. We'll also include the video if you'd like to learn more about Gander. And for those who are interested, please feel free to email us if you're interested in any of the source links there for some reading material. And also, if you do have any requests for future webinar topics, please feel free to send them over. Just wanted to say a massive thank you to Tim and Stuart for joining us today. Super insightful and just such an important and interesting topic at the moment. So thanks once again for your time and efforts with all of this. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Tim and Stuart.
Fantastic.